tonight. The floor of the Legislative Assembly is cleared as protesters calling for a ceasefire in Gaza fill the legislature. Also,
what happened is disgusting and vile.
Premier Scott Moe says the Sask party will find a new candidate for Ryan Domitar's riding as the MLA faces charges related to sexual exploitation. Plus,
we believed all year.
A big win for former Saskatchewan Rough Rider Cody Fajardo as he leads Montreal to a Grey Cup victory.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It is Monday, November 20th, and the CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. Good evening and thank you for watching. Protesters calling for a ceasefire in Gaza interrupted question period at the Regina Legislature. The debate was cut off as people in the public gallery stood and chanted, "Ceasefire now." Adam Hunter was there and has the details.
Protesters ignored the calls to order by the Speaker. Saskatoon NDP MLA Jennifer Bowes stood in solidarity with those chanting. Those in the gallery who did not stop their chants prompted the government members and members of the opposition to leave the chamber. Outside the chamber, someone draped a Palestinian flag on the pole that is holding an Israel flag. The crowd continued chanting inside and then outside on the steps of the legislature.
Even when we were walking out, when we were chanting ceasefire, the Israel flag in the middle of how is that not provocative? If you want to say have peaceful protests and to remain neutral, then you practice the same thing that you preach to us. Well, how are we supposed to walk in there and not feel provoked and not feel like there's already a bias as we're walking in there, or not feel like our voices are already shut down before we even raise a voice when we walk into that?
The protesters are calling on the Saskatchewan government to call for a ceasefire, joining Saskatoon Mayor Charlie Clark and opposition leader Carla Beck. They estimate that 300 people came to the legislature, the majority traveling to Regina from Saskatoon. They say they're disappointed the government is supporting Israel.
We will never forget. We will never forget their standing, and they're voting for genocide, and they're not trying to stop it from their end. And we will remember that every single time they come to ask for our votes.
The opposition has called for a release of hostages and a ceasefire to allow for humanitarian aid.
I think many people have seen the images since October the 7th, and it truly horrifying to see children killed. Disrupting the legislature, the People's Assembly, I think, is troubling. You certainly support people's right to speak out, but it was concerning to see the disruption of the proceedings.
The government declined to comment on Monday's events. On October 10th, Premier Scott Moe announced that the government would send $100,000 to Israel in emergency aid following the attack by Hamas. Last week, the government said it continues to support Israel's right to defend itself. Adam Hunter, CBC News, Regina.
And you have to go through a checkpoint where there's a gun, where there's a kid with a gun.
Another similar rally was held Monday in Saskatoon. Over the noon hour, roughly 50 people gathered in the University of Saskatchewan Bowl area, also to call for a ceasefire in Gaza. The event was called Walkout for Palestine. It was organized by the University of Saskatchewan's Muslim Student Association. The Saskatchewan government is making Holocaust education mandatory in high schools to help reduce anti-Semitism. The government says the requirement will be part of a renewed Social Studies 10 course. Teachers and other content experts will be involved. The Ministry of Education says it will also work with the Jewish community for its input on content. The course will be introduced to high school students in 2 years. After alerting the media to a charge against a former Saskatchewan Party MLA in a statement on Friday, Premier Scott Moe took questions on Monday about what happened with Cut Knife Turtleford MLA Ryan Domitar. Mo says law enforcement informed the government on Friday that Dometer was charged. Within 2 hours, Mo says Dometer was kicked out of caucus and all his appointments were stripped. Dometer was arrested Thursday afternoon at an East Regina hotel. He's facing a charge of communicating for the purposes of obtaining sexual services. Dometer was one of 16 people arrested in a Regina Police Vice Unit sting targeting sexual exploitation and human trafficking. Premier Mo says he has not spoken to Dometer.
You know, what happened is disgusting and vile, to be quite frank, and my statement speaks for itself. A government needs to be supporting women that are in a vulnerable state, not exploiting them. And I think that was the most important piece of the statement that I had put out. This is not acceptable in any way by myself, by this government, and most certainly terrible.
We will wait to see what the details are, but you know, being caught up, being arrested as part of a sting operation around human trafficking is deeply concerning.
Mo says it is a serious situation, and even though Dometer has not yet been found guilty, Mo says he stands by his decision. In July, Dometer was acclaimed to be the Sask party candidate in the next election. Mo says they will be finding a new candidate in that riding. Dometer is to make his first court appearance on the charge in Regina on January 4th. Today, a Saskatchewan man who claimed his wife died by suicide in 2020 admitted he killed her. Michael McKay pleaded guilty to second-degree murder and was sentenced at the Court of King's Bench in Battleford. There was standing room only in a packed courtroom as people came out to hear the truth. Kendall Latimer has more.
For years, Michael McKay denied killing his wife. He told police and community members that she died by suicide. Now he's admitted to making that up and has pleaded guilty to second-degree murder.
It has been nearly 4 years since Cindy was murdered, and today we finally got some justice.
Cindy and Michael married in 2005. They had 3 children. In 2015, the couple moved out to Cindy's farm near Meota. Cindy worked as a nurse, and she loved her job. But after their daughter was in an accident, she became a full-time stay-at-home mom. Before he killed Cindy, Michael started an affair with another woman and hinted to the woman he would soon say goodbye to his wife. He also told another friend he would need a place to lie low. And on February 7th, 2020, Michael poisoned Cindy. He mixed her a glass of powdered Gatorade and added poison meant for pests on the farm. The dose was lethal.
Strychnine poisoning is extremely rare. If the trial had run, we would have heard some evidence from a toxicologist that while poisonings do happen, you're talking 1 or 2 a year. So the fact that that was the poison used in this case does make it extremely rare.
Michael called 911 when she began to suffer. She died an excruciating death in hospital. Cindy was 38 years old. She's remembered as a devoted mother who loved her family, especially her 3 children.
She was kind and compassionate. She loved animals and adopted as many as she could. She was well liked in the community. She volunteered with the skating club that her girls were involved with. I could go on all day about all the good she had to offer. The world was a better place with her in it.
Michael has been sentenced to life in prison, but he can apply for parole after 10 years.
We appreciate not having to go through the stress of a trial. However, 10 years isn't even close to enough time to repay what he has taken from us. He should be in prison for the rest of his life.
But the family is relieved that the truth about what happened to Cindy McKay is finally out there. Kendall Latimer, CBC News, Battleford.
Saskatchewan and Ontario have taken another step toward implementing a new nuclear technology in both provinces. Dustin Duncan, Saskatchewan's minister responsible for SaskPower, was joined by Ontario Energy Minister Todd Smith on Monday morning. SaskPower and Ontario Power Generation announced they signed a master services agreement over small modular reactors, or SMR technology. The deal between the 2 Crown corporations will last up to 5 years and will allow the companies to coordinate the development of a Canadian fleet of SMRs.
To have an agreement that allows us to tap into that expertise and knowledge from a jurisdiction and organizations that have a great deal of expertise and history in the nuclear sector is critically important for Saskatchewan to be able to carry forward with this.
With job creators looking for affordable, reliable, and clean energy, SMRs will continue to help build a clean energy advantage and help us secure new investments that will support business and create jobs in both of our great provinces.
Ontario is currently building the first 4 SMRs at its nuclear facility in Darlington. SaskPower has identified Estevan and Elbow as the 2 possible locations for an SMR. The Crown Corporation is expected to reveal where it could build its SMR facility early next year, with a final decision to come by 2029. Last year, Ottawa removed the ceiling of 20 hours of off-campus work per week while classes are in session for international students. That pilot policy is coming to an end this year, but as Pratush Dayal reports, many people are asking for it to be made permanent.
The past year could have been more financially stressful for Krunal Chavra. The University of Saskatchewan international student has about $40,000 in student loans. He paid off $10,000 with full-time work, but says he's feeling inflationary pressure. Chavra wants to see the federal pilot policy that didn't cap off-campus work at 20 hours per week made permanent.
I have found myself in situations like that where I was like, okay, should I buy this or should I not? It's basically put down to necessities and not like the wants.
Other international students agree.
I feel it's becoming more and more difficult to sustain.
Not every grocery store are always on sale, having the products on sale. So sometimes some healthier options might be a bit too expensive. Sometimes you just have to pick the ones that you can avoid versus the ones that you really need.
The rising cost of living is pushing many to rely on food banks. A report from October shows national food bank use is at its highest level since 1989.
A lot of them are reporting that over 50% are international students that are using those food banks. So it's a very dire situation that speaks to the discrepancy and the huge gap between what life is like for an international student in this country versus the average Canadian or even the average student.
We're calling on Prime Minister Trudeau and Immigration Minister Mark Miller to do the right thing. Otherwise, they will be letting employer abuse, rampant wage theft, mistreatment and work, and general stress continue.
International students in Canada that spoke to CBC say they want the same. The Federal Immigration Department says it's assessing the impact of the policy and says the temporary lift on the limit is helping address Canada's labour shortage. While uncertainty looms, some students are already looking for on-campus jobs.
So that we don't have that impact on our mental health, that we are always worrying about money, and that we need to always be concerned about if we will have enough money for next year.
With thousands of students to be impacted, advocates say the government needs to act now. Pratish Dayal, CBC News, Saskatoon.
Hi, boys and girls. Ho, ho, ho. Merry Christmas.
Couldn't have asked for better weather this weekend for the Santa Claus Parade. The Jolly Elf made appearances in Saskatoon and Regina on Sunday. In Regina, it was the 37th annual parade and it wrapped up at the Northgate Mall. So many different beautiful floats and talented performers entertained the crowd that turned out. And Canada Post was on hand to collect letters written for Santa. Stay with us. Ethan has your forecast after the break. Welcome back. Significant changes are coming to the Regina Airport. WestJet has announced daily, year-round service from Regina to Minneapolis. The daily service is to begin April 28th with flights leaving every morning and arriving every afternoon. This follows WestJet's announcement of direct service to Minneapolis from Saskatoon earlier this year. The province says these changes will help increase tourism in the city and expand trade.
That it means jobs and it means opportunity for people here in Saskatchewan. That is the reason. It means for economic reasons, for our business community, for social benefits, for our tourism sector, for our events hosting sector. This is vitally important.
The province invested $500,000 as part of the agreement. This brings back service that hasn't been seen in Regina since 2016. Canadian Western Agribition officially kicked off today in Regina.
Yeah.
Premier Scott Moe, alongside longtime Saskatchewan agriculture broadcaster Jim Smalley, took part in the annual burning of the brand ceremony. On top of a rodeo and trade exhibits, Agribition also hosts Canada's largest livestock show. Some 2,500 animals, from cattle to alpacas, are on display this week. That alone is expected to draw international producers from more than 85 different countries.
There will be people from across the world, and some of them will have been here before, but some of those that haven't, they're not even going to find out what really cold weather is like, which isn't all bad. But there's lots of agriculture here for them to see, and lots of them will be looking for genetics that they can fit into their own programs when they go back home. So a lot of those genetics will be frozen genetics that can be transported around the world.
Agribition is expected to bring in about 120,000 visitors over its 6 days. It runs through Saturday. The provincial economic impact is forecast to be $96.3 million.
This weather update is brought to you by Crestview Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, proud member of the Capital Automotive Group.
And our weather specialist, Ethan Williams, joins me now. Our international visitors are going to think we're a bunch of whiners about winter here because it's been so nice, but who ordered the wind?
Yeah, well, I had to, give them a taste of the wind that we experience here in Saskatchewan, right, Sam? World-famous Saskatchewan wind along to go with the cattle at Agribition. How about that? Yes, very gusty today across the province. Some gusts topping out close to 80 kilometers an hour in both Regina and Saskatoon this afternoon. It got over that in Buffalo Narrows. That was kind of the windiest spot province-wide today. Really throughout the north, gusts in that 60 to 80 range. And really, as we look at the picture right now, we're still seeing those picking up in that 50 to 60 range in some spots and starting to finally die off in portions of southwestern Saskatchewan. I think tonight we're probably going to see a lot of us getting some relief from that. Now, the reason it's so windy is because of this low pressure system in northern Manitoba. A wind warning for Churchill could bring gusts in that region in excess of 100 kilometers an hour, so we'll be glad we're not that gusty. But the other part of the reason is this cold front, which is also bringing through those winds from the northwest as that moves through the province. It's been dropping temperatures as well through the north. Hasn't quite hit south and central yet, and still we're actually sitting quite nice right now, just above or below the freezing mark, depending on where you are as that front drops from kind of northwest to southeast. And speaking of the nice weather, we really have been spoiled this November in Saskatchewan with our average highs being quite warm in these first 20 days. Regina, we've averaged around 2.7 degrees above freezing in these first 20 days. Compare that to this time last year. The first 20 days of November 2022 were minus 4.5. We're a little bit warmer, though, the year prior to that, 5.5 in 2021. And Saskatoon, quite a stark difference for us here. 5 degrees above freezing for our first 20 days, our average high so far. Last year, it was minus 5.7. You can't beat 2016, though. Almost 10 degrees above zero for those first 20 days in November in that year. Now, on our systems map, things starting to improve tomorrow in terms of wind. Temperature-wise, a bit of a warmer air mass starting to move in. Some snow, though, moving through the north, bringing a very light accumulation there tomorrow. And then this area of high pressure moves in Thursday, really starting to clear things out. And that will also help alleviate the winds, too. Tomorrow, a little bit breezy still in the south, gusts 30 to 40, maybe a rogue 50-kilometer-an-hour gust in there. You can see the majority of those strong winds off to our north and east. Now, in terms of our temperatures over these next few days, that high pressure moving in, definitely going to be cooling things down as it brings cold air from the north. So temperatures for highs closer to around minus 10 in Regina Thursday, but things quickly rebounding, and it looks like we'll keep the sunshine around too. For Saskatoon, quite a drop off as we even go into Wednesday as that area of high pressure reaches you first. Some overnight lows into the minus double digits there, but overall, Sam, this is looking better than it was last week when we were looking at minus double-digit temperatures.
I will reserve complaints. I got none.
There you go. Perfect.
All right. Thanks, Ethan.
You bet.
Frightening creatures roam through the streets of a Slovenian town on the weekend, sending shivers down the spines of children as part of the traditional Krampus parade. The mythical Krampus first surfaced hundreds of years ago in Austria to punish naughty children. The devilish counterpart to St. Nicholas gives misbehaving kids lumps of coal instead of traditional holiday gifts. The parade organizers say it attracts participants and spectators from across Central Europe. We'll be back after the break.
When it comes to your news, you want up-to-the-minute access. Anytime, anywhere. Get the facts straight from the source. Download the free CBC News app or visit cbcnews.ca for news you can trust.
Welcome back. The Montreal Alouettes won the Grey Cup on Sunday night. It was a thrilling 28-24 victory over the Winnipeg Blue Bombers in Hamilton, Ontario. This is the Alouettes' first CFL title in 13 years, and their fans couldn't be happier. Kwabena Oduro tells us about the team's triumphant return to Montreal.
Their celebration on full display as the Montreal Alouettes stepped off the plane.
Having that cup on that plane ride home makes all the blood, the sweat, the tears all worth it.
Quarterback Cody Fajardo was named MVP for throwing a 19-yard touchdown pass in the final seconds of the game, helping the team end its 13-year drought with a 28-24 upset win over the Winnipeg Blue Bombers.
Can't be any more prouder of this team. The way that everybody counted us out is what bonded us, and that bonded us from day one of training camp and all the way through the playoffs and in the Grey Cup, and even at halftime when we were down 10 points. You know, nobody batted an eyelash. We believed all year.
In a season that saw the team with a new starting quarterback, new coach, and new owner, few expected much from the Owls. But head coach Jason Moss saw something special in the team.
You would never be able to tell whether we were on a 3-game losing streak or a 4-game winning streak. We all came to work the same and put the work in, and I think that's why we're here today in front of you as champions.
After a mixed start, the Owls had momentum, winning their last 8 games.
When you give everything you have to an entire season and it culminates into a Grey Cup win, I think you're about exhausted as you could possibly be.
I've been winning all my life to be a champion.
In a passionate post-game interview with RDS, defensive back Marc-Antoine Dequoy criticized the media and the CFL for what he felt was a lack of respect for the Alouettes and a lack of French at the Grey Cup. Today, he admitted his emotions got the best of him.
It's nothing against the English. When the comment I said is like I said, it was mostly about you can keep the English sign. It was mostly that. It just when you're live after a victory, it's hard to actually have the right words.
Now that they are back, fresh off their Grey Cup win, some of the players are looking forward to continuing celebrations with their families. They are also looking forward to celebrating with Montrealers on Wednesday during the parade. Kwabena Oduro, CBC News, Mirabel.
And Ethan's back with one last look at your weather.
Yeah, a bit of a chilly start to the morning in Regina, around -9 tomorrow, looking for mostly sunny skies. Little bit of a wind, making that feel closer to -14 in the morning. A little bit of cloud cover toward the afternoon. And again, winds a little breezy, but a whole lot better than we saw them today. We'll be sitting around freezing. Saskatoon, a little more cloud cover for you tomorrow morning as you start the day, but very similar conditions for you. Those should clear away as we get to the noon hour, looking for a temperature just above freezing. And some beautiful skies the other night on, this is on Friday, on the highway, or Trans-Canada Highway, east of Regina, between Regina, or west of Regina, actually, I should say, between Regina and Moose Jaw. I may not be able to get my directions right, Sam, but hey, we've got a beautiful picture to look at.
It is beautiful. Thanks, Ethan.
You bet.
And that is it for us tonight. For news anytime, you can always head to our website, subscribe to our YouTube channel, or go download the CBC News app. Thanks so much for watching, and have a great night. Stay warm.